Hey, greetings everyone. Dorsey's Resource. Welcome back to another session. Before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person. Please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. If you need to seek a professional lawyer, accountant, consultant, or whomever, please do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not responsible or liable for any misuse of this information. These are simply my opinions and views on the topic. With that being said, let's get started. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I want to do a video on the TDA accounts. These are some of the terms I had, as you guys can see right here from the screen capture. This video, I'm probably going to title it, "Is the TDA all caps strawman name a business?" This is what's going to be, the video is going to be about. Is the TDA all cap straw name a business, or is it a corporation, or is it real? I've heard, and I'm here to clear all the rumors and myths up. And it's been a while since I've done a video. I may not really go into that right now, but I want to thank you guys who continue to follow me, all my new subscribers, people out there. I appreciate you very much. And without further ado, the first definition I'm going to go with, not just yet, here it is. Capitis dementia maxima, as you see from the screen capture. I'm going to read the definition. It says capitis diminutio maxima. I may be pronouncing it a little bit incorrectly, but that's another way how to pronounce it. It says a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. You hear John Doe or Doe John. The highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with all rights of citizenship and all family rights. Diminutio, Latin for in civil law. And I want to say that's why I believe, well, I know they took Latin out the school system, was to dumb down the general public, to keep people out there ill-informed about this information as well. Now here's something dealing with the Black's Law Dictionary. It says a Black's Law Dictionary explains, that's a legal dictionary, deals with the legal system. The full capitalization of letters of one's natural name, capitinum, results in a diminishing or complete loss of legal or citizenship status. Okay, I'm not going to go read a lot of some of these definitions, but as you guys can see, you can pause the screen and read it yourself. I'm going to deal with the main meat and potatoes that I wanted this video to prove that the all capital letters name is a corporation, because I've heard bill collectors or debt collectors say you cannot pay from a business account or corporate account. And I want to clarify the myth and about the TDA information that came out that people ask, is that real? Is it connected to the Social Security Trust? I'm going to clear all of that up with what I intend to go over. The last video I actually recorded went up to 24 minutes, and I didn't realize with the software I didn't have the any sound. So I can hit myself in the head. I'm redoing this video now. That was a good video, well, would have been a good video, but it didn't have any sound because I forgot to hit the sound check for this particular software I'm using. But I'm going to go over some other definitions that I pulled up from. I'm going to start with right here, since the TDA accounts are connected to through your Social Security, through Treasury Direct. Since we have a lot of newbies that are involved in this information now, the information is wonderful that's been coming out, and the people, different groups have been coming together. Big shout out to Mike O'Brien that did the conference call. I'm going to intend to give a shout out to some other people later on down the line. I'm going to show his YouTube channel for you guys to go there and subscribe to, but I just wanted to show validity without having to just email a bunch of people. You guys can see the evidence right here for government employees and things that people who are skeptical, who don't think that this is real. And I'm going to tell you, these are some of the rumors I've actually heard in the past, because I have friends and loved ones who say, is this that sovereign citizen stuff? Is I've heard is this that it's a get rich quick scheme, that it's a financial cult, that it's a militant organization, these different things. And I'm going to clarify, I'm not saying you don't have those things out there, but that doesn't exemplify everyone in the movement. This is a real movement that the elite people that run and control our society worldwide set this up. And this also goes back to Roman law, Roman Catholicism, ecclesiastical law. This goes back years ago when I read about just now capitis dementia maxima. But I'm going to go over documentation. Some people in the general public are not aware, but people are becoming more aware now. People in the judicial system, some of them may not be aware of some of the information they've learned or the reason why, but they are aware of the artificial person or legal fiction. And I'm going to go over some more of the definitions right here. It says, as you will discover, the Social Security account number is a public number belonging to a public persona. It says a legal entity different from yourself and artificial as well. The all capital letters name straw man. It's a legal term for a front man or nominal party to a transaction. And I'm going to scroll down right here and read this definition. It says most people understand that the law is very precise with legalized deadly violence attached to the words appearing in the text of the codes that are enforced by both courts and police. The English language and its accepted rules of grammar are likewise precise. However, make no accommodation for proper nouns to be written in all capital letters. It states that all capital letters written name which appears on your social security card, driver's license, passport, bank statement, credit cards, etc., and which is rigidly enforced by the legal system is not there by mistake, as the law is very precise. But it is not your true name which appears with only initial letters capitalized. The all caps version is the name of your mirror image straw man and is written in another language entirely, legalese. This is what I said in the legal system. I'm going to kind of jump real quick, scroll down to the in language. This is the actual legal term for artificial being. I'm going to read the definition. It says a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person, applied to corporations considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law. And I'm going to scroll down. It says in lingus, it may be pronounced in legis. I've heard in legis is the precise legal description of the all capital letters name. It says analyzing the obvious. It says examine all of your corporate papers, driver's license, credit cards, bank statements, traffic tickets, and government agencies. They all insist on dealing with you only in all caps for contracts. It's a key word, contracts, accounts, etc. The military also designates its personnel exclusively in all caps. And I do know when I did a process years ago with the group from Nevada, we did a process called the cancelator process. There was a group in Michigan, and we were told that the military DD-214 papers, you needed to cancel or terminate that contract as well, when you're properly removing yourself properly from the system. It's not what people think. This is not an urban legend. This is what the elite people in this country use, the private sector, super wealthy people, because there's a difference between rich people and the public. I was explaining this to a friend of mine versus wealthy people who are like, use some of these same methodologies or super elites, as I would separate. There is a hierarchy or pecking order, a classification to make that distinction. Now I'm going to jump back to the other definition when it was referring to the person that's not you is dealing with the capitis diminutio minima. And I'm going to read that. Capitis diminutio minima means a minimal loss of status through the use of capitalization. It says the lowest or least comprehensive degree of loss of status. All this goes back to Roman law, Roman Catholicism, ecclesiastical law. I'm just going to kind of jump ahead. You guys can read this from the screen capture. It says sui juris, commonly also spelled as sui juris, is a Latin phrase. Remember when I mentioned why they took Latin out the school system? Years ago, some of my relatives, they had Latin in the school system, but they removed it on purpose to dumb down the general public. That's why if you're hauled into court through a lot of trickery and contracts, because people get traffic tickets or pulled over by the police, so we're tricked and you don't understand what they're meaning. This was done on purpose by the elites, the cabal that set up this whole system dealing with attorneys through the Bar Association and whatever. They have to learn through the Black's Law Dictionary. That's a legal dictionary before for what I assume that's the book that they use to um, learn the terms and things before they can pass the bar. There's a connection with that, and that's very important because, for example, the word understand, I was explaining to a friend of mine, has a dual meaning. That we're taught in elementary school through the Webster's dictionary that the word understand means that you comprehend. But did you know in the legal system it has an entirely different meaning or connotation to it? It means that when you say, yes, Your Honor, I understand, or the police officer is getting, he may not even be aware he's being trained to say, you were doing 75, 85 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. And you say, yes, sir. When you say yes, you're contracting into agreements. Understand legally means you agree. So see, they're not telling you these different tactics, these tricks. I'm just giving you a basic example. I'm not a legal expert, and I did give a disclaimer. So this is not legal advice. This is for educational, entertainment purposes only. Please keep that in mind. And I'm going to go over some other definitions. Okay, I read that one already. Let me see if there's something else that's important to go over. I highlighted some things. If there's a debtor-creditor relationship, I'm going to jump ahead to, okay, did I see something? Okay, yep, right here. It says, in all capital letters, written name is an artificial construction and designates an artificial person existing only by force or in contemplation of law. The problem enters when a man or woman mistakenly believes that such a corruption of their true name refers to him or her, a calamitous case of mistaken identity. However, all law to be law must offer remedy and recourse. The private form of the UCC offers such remedy. So, I mentioned in the last video that didn't come out with any sound about the commercial registry. I may touch on that later, but I'm going to go to, I scanned these documents. These documents come out of the book, Cracking the Code. The information is progressing the movement, but there was investigative journalists. Big shout out to Barton Butts, Roger Elvick, and people that put this information together. Big shout out to Dan Benham. He was one of the authors in one of the previous books, because you had a Cracking the Code 2, a Cracking the Code 3, and this is not to be confused with the public side Cracking the Code book. From what I understand, there was one that dealt with the tax system with the IRS, but this was Cracking the Code that dealt with people that studied in the so-called redemption movement or sovereign citizen or sovereign movement. And I want to say once again, no, it's not an urban legend. It is not a conspiracy theory. My friend's mother-in-law said that she thought I was part of a get-rich-quick scheme. Let me clarify that I'm not saying you don't have those things out there that do occur or radical organizations, but that doesn't exemplify everyone. This was a real movement. And these are methodologies and things the elite people are using that are very wealthy. You might not be aware of. They're sent to private schools by invitation only. They're taught by their parents. Someone was mentioning about the boarding schools. I was watching a woman that has a YouTube video where she's filming from Zurich, Switzerland. And I think someone in the comment section may have mentioned, I can't remember exactly, or she mentioned in the video why a lot of elites send their children to boarding schools in Switzerland, because I believe she stated, that's correct, that they teach their citizens or people over there the public and private side, unlike other countries where you're only taught on the public side. That's how they keep you dumbed down. Because I have an aunt who was very smart, where she was sent to a school for gifted children. And I didn't understand when I heard the psychologist say, Dr. Umar Johnson, who I studied under and went to some of his seminars some years ago, that I got a chance to meet him personally, bought some of his DVDs and took photos, and I would hear him say that they don't test black children anymore for gifted. And I didn't know what he was talking about at the time. Like, they test you for being mentally retarded. Excuse me if that's not the political correct term. I can't think of the other term they use. But he stated that they used to test black children for gifted. They don't test them for gifted anymore. And then I come to find out, I have an aunt. She's my mother's older sister. She's very intelligent, but she had quoted to me. She said, some years back when I was trying to explain something to her, she said, you've been part of this for how long and you don't have any results to show, because people feel like you need to be living in a big mansion or Lamborghini for this information to be credible. But we're getting there. The cabal has done a lot of put a lot of obstacles in the way to keep us poor, broke, and starving and stuck on these 9-to-5 jobs. But she was very highly intelligent, smart, but she was taught to be conditioned on the public sector system, to be with the information they wanted her to know. And I believe she took Latin when it was available at the schools before they started removing Latin from a lot of the high schools because they wanted to keep the rest of the general public dumbed down. But I just wanted to tell you guys a story. This is not conspiracy theory or urban legend I've heard, or a cult or financial cult. No, not saying you don't have those things that exist, but I'm showing you documentation and facts, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let me get back. Let me read this definition right here. As you can see, non-de-guerre. It's this a fictitious name. It says Webster's Third International Dictionary of the English Language, unabridged, 1976. Literature, war name, a name assumed by or a name assigned to a person engaged in some action or enterprise. See, it says, see, compare noun. Note, just below it says, any fictitious name is a war name, a nom de guerre. It says the U.S. government formally at war with you since the Amendatory Act, March 9, 1933, to the Trading with the Enemy Act of October 6, 1917. Use the legal fiction artifice of the right to presume on your behalf and assign you a false name, a war name in the form of your all capital letters, straw man name. Non-de-guerre says, see legal fiction. Because legally, they made you an enemy of the state. Remember, they had a movie some years ago, Will Smith, called Enemy of the State. I recommend watching that. So people that think status correction isn't important, I'll say it's important to file paperwork. I don't like filing paperwork myself, but I feel like you have to do it. There's things that I've done to bulletproof to protect myself. I'm not going to touch on that in this video. I told a friend of mine some secrets I shared with that I'm very close to, a good friend of mine, some things that I've done that I feel like that have protected me, and it deals with contracts. But did you know this law right here, that you can look it up, the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 actually declared everyone who calls themselves a corporate U.S. citizen an enemy of the state. Legally, behind the scenes, they do these things you're unaware of. And I was on the conference call, and I'm going to, if I don't forget in this video, show you guys how to link to Mike O'Brien's YouTube channel, subscribe to his channel. He did an excellent call. Ginger, she provided excellent information last night. Big shout out to her. Answered a lot of questions. I was on there as well. So the momentum in this movement is picking up. The reason why I'm doing this video is to provide primarily education for those out there who may not be aware or on the fence, like, is this stuff real, is this fake, or they wanted some more validity, and showing you documentation. So hopefully let me know in the comment section. I'm going to leave the comment section open for this video if things don't get out of hand, and you can leave your comments, feedback. I'll do my level best to try to respond or get back with you guys. I do censor my comments for trolls out there who try to leave some of the comments I've had to delete, where people say mean, very cruel, corrupt things. So I will let you comment, but I do read it ahead of time before I'll let it actually post to the channel to go public, you know, for security purposes, and also out of respect, because we should try to be professional as much as possible in presenting this information, in my opinion. That's why I'm refraining from using any type of profanity or anything. This is education, and I hope let you guys out there, let me know if this is helping you out. If you're a newbie, if you're new to this, I'm at Dorsey's Resource, but I'll go over that when I finish going over this information. So see if this document right here I scan has anything important, because some of these documents I can always reference, tie it in with other information that's important for us to learn. Okay, negotiable instrument. I did touch on that briefly on the call last night. I won't go into that. But actually right here, I'm going to read this particular note. As you guys can see from the screen capture, it says a birth certificate is a negotiable instrument. It is like any negotiable instrument, freely transferable, assignable through endorsement. And I'm going to add to that, the birth certificate is also a bond certificate. It's a certificate of stock. That's why it's put on legal bonded paper. By the way, that's not by coincidence. I guess that's where I scanned this document that deals with preferred stock. Because when I call the Treasury Direct, the Bureau of Public Debt, they're trying to say the savings bonds has nothing to do with your birth certificate. The lady that worked there said that they received training that this was a scam. No, it's not a scam. Your Social Security number is a QSIP number. It's based off your birth certificate bond. The Federal Reserve, what they do is they take out a loan and they pledge you as collateral. That number that you see on the Federal Reserve notes, the dollar bills we carry in our pocket, that also links to a Federal Reserve routing number. Those are QSIP numbers of actual people based off the bond, because we, the people, full faith and credit. And there's legal terms. I have other documents to validate that. And there's other people out there that should have that information as well, that we were pledged as collateral. But there's going to be a big change with the banking system, which Ginger discussed on the conference call last night. She gave very powerful information. I am aware of the BRICS nation and the changeover that's happening between the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. So I'll let individuals do their own research. I just wanted to provide validity for those, because there'll be people out there that'll claim, oh, that's a conspiracy or that's not true. No, I'm showing you actual documentation on top of that. So I've debunked all of that right now, right in front of you, clear as day. Now I'm going to scroll down to straw man. I'm going to read that information from the Black's Law. It says straw man or party, a front or third party who was put up in name only to take part in a transaction in name only. A nominal party to a transaction. Black's Law Dictionary 6th edition. It says the term is also used in commercial and property context when a transfer is made to a third party, the straw man person, simply for the purpose of transferring to the transferor in order to accomplish some other purpose not otherwise permitted. Says see Barron's third, says see Streminius homo. That's another definition. See, I'm still learning myself, because I don't claim to be a legal expert. I did give a disclaimer, so understand that this is for educational purposes. Note, it says in this section just below, the straw man is a artificial person. It says see artificial person created by law at one's birth via the encryption of an all capital letters name. It says see all capital letters written on the birth certificate document. See birth certificate, which is a document of title and a negotiable instrument, which I just got finished reading. It says the straw man has a fictitious name written in a manner not provided for in the rules of English grammar. It says it's right here in parentheses. It says see proper. So you're getting into English when we studied literature in elementary school and middle school. This is getting into some of the concepts, so that this is how you apply your college classes when you learn about the private sector. This is why I'm going over the basics. So a lot of people think they're experts, but they're not aware of the specific terminology. It says your straw man has a same sounding. It says si endum sonans, in parentheses, name as you, man or woman, but is artificial and exists only by force of or in contemplation of law. It says see person. That's another definition to look up. Real interesting, how you're doing business as a corporation. Straw man is a distinct legal entity, corporation, that benefits the creator, the U.S. government, because the creator can then accomplish things in the name of the straw man that would not otherwise be permitted, secretly acquire property, do business with one's enemies, etc., which we kind of discussed on a conference call last night, how they had been using those TDA accounts behind our back. But with the changeover that's getting ready to take place is to help give power and control back to the people, not only on the private side, but the public side as well, from what I understand. I won't go as in depth, but this kind of gets into the meat and potatoes, some of the high-level information. It says the people of the world have been politically and financially ravaged because they did not know of their alter ego, public persona straw man. It says bankrupt governments use such straw men for the purpose of siphoning wealth from otherwise sovereign men and women and conveying the proceeds to their creditor. Like I explained on the conference call last night that Mike O'Brien had with Ginger, when I touched on the point about the funds in the county, how they're trading people certificates. You have people that work at the county for the clerk of the court in different municipalities or cities across the country are not aware of what goes on behind the scenes or in the basement when they're probating your estate that deals with people. They have an account called the CAFR funds, it's an acronym for Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, CAFR funds. And I mentioned there's a documentary you can watch for free on YouTube called Changes on the Horizon that gets really good towards parts 1 and 2. I think somebody uploaded a version that had parts 1, 2, and 3 combined where you can just watch it all straight through. But towards the end, I know when they had it broken up in parts 2 and 3, it gets really good, but you want to watch that documentary like several times. It's an eye-opener to, if you know about the Iraqi dinar, the whole global currency reset, the world trust that Ginger talked about. Heather Tucci was involved with. Heather was a lawyer, a UCC lawyer. She did some really powerful things for us. Big shout out to Heather. I hope she gets free soon. I just kind of want to use that as a point of reference. Now, I'm going to scroll down further that I read. It says, after redemption, you can use your straw man for your benefit rather than continuing to be enslaved and abused. That deals with what I may have mentioned earlier, dealing with status correction. There's some people who don't want to file paperwork as of yet, and I understand that. You want to research and make sure before you involve yourself in something like what I'm going over now for educational purposes is very important. It's very essential. Now it says, under the UCC, our straw man is defined as and serves as a transmitting utility. And then it says, see the definition, transmitting utility. The operator/controllers of the political, economic, okay, that's going into another page. But transmitting utility, the concept comes from when you have like what we call a utility bill, is the government needed to be able to have a conduit that it could do business with. When people claim or corporations claim you can't make payments from a business account or your all caps name or your personal name is not a business. No, it is a business. It's actual corporation, and I'm proving it to you through these documents I'm going over. It's a different type, but the concept is that a corpse, like, you know, a corpse, like it's the first part of the word corporation, that represents a dead person, deceased entity. It's a fictional entity. The concept is that the government, when they have you enter into contracts and you want to get services provided to you through these various contracts, some of them I mentioned earlier, voter's registration, driver's license, beautician license, marriage license, military DD-214 papers, barber license, all of these are different contracts. And the concept is that how every corporation has a trust relationship, it needs a conduit to interface with because it cannot deal with living people. It needs a go-between, and that's what the transmitting utility is. It's a conduit, a go-between. So when they created the birth certificate for our benefit in a sense, but didn't tell us how they took control and used lawyers and stuff to administer your estate and do these things until you learn and develop enough knowledge where you can become competent and able to defend yourself and manage your commercial affairs, then you will understand these principles and concepts a whole lot better. But that's the reason why, where these concepts derive from. I explained this to a friend of mine in this particular discipline. He's involved like in the prepping, survival discipline, and he's an expert at that. Helps me go back and forth. So in my discipline, this information, I share how these concepts to help him understand, and others out there, how these concepts work. And they were explained to me by my teachers when I was a beginner in the movement some years ago, when I was a newbie, because I didn't come out my mother's womb, of course, knowing this information. I was brainwashed and indoctrinated in this system like everyone else before I woke up to the truth. But that's what transmitting utility, the concept is. Like when you file a UCC, it's a notice that you're just simply letting the state know you're registering property. It can be filed in the county and also the commercial registry known as the Secretary of State or State Department, and every state has an office. And that's where, and it's also taught in a college class where many people are not aware on the private side, since if you're not aware of the private side, you may not be aware of some of those college classes you're learning. And business and law teaches, has a section and a chapter, and I've confirmed this, and updated versions that I pulled up on UCC financing statements, because you're registering property collateral, you're registering cars. So when people say those are fake forms, they're banking forms too, because the Uniform Commercial Code has a lot of the connotations and definitions dealing with banking and business licenses. Your name is also a business. It has a quasi meaning. It has multiple meanings, because a lot of people fight and argue over different processes. Because there's different ways people file a UCC, whether they do it as just the name itself by itself, or they put trade name or trademark or creditor or sestacute trust and organization. It's all those things. It's a sestacute trust, it's a trade name, it's a trademark, it's a fictitious name. You can file in some counties or state departments fictitious name, trade name, or trademark. It's also a organization. It's also sestacute. So it has multiple meanings. So don't get caught up with some people say, oh, you don't need to file a UCC, or some people, because they want to sell you on their process. And some people say, well, you need to authenticate your birth certificate. There are different paths. They all lead down the same pathway to assist you. For example, it's like if you wanted to take one freeway versus another, let's say you want to take I-75 versus 696, they both will get you to the same destination. It doesn't matter which freeway you take. There's still a freeway or, a passageway for people to get through. So people get into the semantics and stuff. And I just kind of wanted to clarify to give you all a thorough understanding. And I'm going to go to the next document. Here we have, okay, it says an industrial system have set it up that way for men, women, and children to access industrial goods and services. Okay, this correlates to what I was just referring to. Services of nation through a nominal third party, a front man, a dummy public corporation. It says, see, when they say C in parentheses, it's telling you, I think in this Cracking the Code book, it had a lot of definitions. I remember an older gentleman used to come to the meetings some years back. His name was Darnell Jackson at the time, brought a lot of good information years ago when I went to my first meeting back in 2004. I was homeless at the time for a time period, and I caught the bus to my first meeting and didn't know how I was going to make it back all the way from the east side of the city of Detroit all the way back to the west side. So that shows you how where a leap of faith can take you. And I've come this far to learning this information. And he would really mention that the definitions were very important. A lot of people would purchase the Cracking the Code book. Paula, who was part of the Nubian Nation of Moors, which come up under Dr. Malachi Z. York, and they're connected to rapper Jay-Z. From what I understand, he studied under Dr. York. Jonah Bay mentioned that information. Jonah has very good information. If you go over to his website, Blogspot, he's brought some good information. And they've been on other calls as well, where you've had other patriots and people cross-reference information. Yusaville with High Frequency Radio. Trying to think of Jonah Bay. He's also connected to Akeem Mel as well. They go over status correction. It's very accurate. There's different processes set up. Yusuf is good with the secure party creditor process, but you have to determine at the end of the day which you feel is best for you. I heard Ginger mention that on the conference call last night to individuals, and I've done a mixture of maybe different processes and things to try to protect myself legally through these different contracts that we enter into. Tex Mason on YouTube, he puts out excellent videos as well. There's a lot of people out there that put out really good work. He's reached out to me before in the past. So I didn't have the infrastructure really set up to take a lot of inquiries. So I have been answering questions on my other email at dorsey'sresource2017@gmail.com. But like I say, until I can supplement my income, I'm still on the plantation, as I call it, the 9-to-5 job. Until I can get off that, I don't mind helping people. And I would actually do it for free, have my investments or ship sail through, then I would have, loved doing this information and sharing this with people. But that's why I've had to kind of have it in a controlled type manner, because like I said, to reiterate, I just don't have the infrastructure, because it's tons of people. It's a stampede of people that are waking up, coming into this information. But the reason I'm filming this video is for educational purposes mainly, so people will have a point of reference to go to, um, and when they look at this information. And also, without further ado, I'm going to continue to read some more. It says a public corporation. Um, it says a corporately colored juristic person, a straw man. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but you guys can read from the screen capture that I'm going to do once I upload the video. It says a straw man utility through which said goods and services may be transmitted. The only way one can acquire the goods and services of the nation is through the straw man. That's, and I'm going to jump real quick. That's the in lingus. Remember, legally, it's artificial being. It's legally. So I'm going to jump back to that. Just wanted to reiterate for those of you who may have missed that part earlier. You cannot keep your body alive and survive in the world today without industrial goods and services of the nation. So you are forced to interface through your straw man in order to take part of them. Because the straw man has no body, and because you are the one actually benefiting from the consumption use of the industrial goods and services of the nation, because prior to redemption you did not hold title to your straw man, you are the one responsible for discharging the public liability associated with the benefits that come to you in the name of your straw man. Okay, let me see what this part goes over. I'll jump down. It says all income is corporate income. The straw man is a dummy public corporation because the straw man is registered birth certificate in parentheses, and because you cannot work for another except through his labors, meaning mainly with corporations that require, like saying right here, Social Security card or have a bank account, except through this serial number. That's how the Social Security all caps ties in with the TA accounts, which the title of the video is, to provide evidence. Is this real? Yes, it is real. This is evidence right here. The reason I'm talking like that too is that some people learn slow. They don't really comprehend information that well. So I'm saying, repeating myself things numerous times so that individuals out there will get it. For the newbies and people that have a difficulty understanding, is this information real? So I know some of you all out there are advanced already and know this. Says all claims made against you, whether civil or criminal, are instituted in the name of your straw man, the title to which is currently held by the U.S. government. Accordingly, upon acquiring legal title to your straw man, you have the capacity to protect your interests so that no one can come against you via your straw man and perfect a claim. A straw man is a construct of law, is a fictitious entity, is a person, is an artificial person, a juristic person, once again a dummy corporation, which is a public corporation. Now it says is a public vessel. In case you're aware, when I was studying under someone who taught me in the movement years ago back in 2004, big shout out to Del Rico Sutton, I think that was his name. I lost contact with him. Did an excellent job. Even one of my former girlfriends met with Del Rico back then. And he told me in Title IX, according to Title IX of the United States codes, they consider you a vessel of the United States. And these legal terms that I pulled up, the res, there was a lady that I know down in Virginia who she attended the Pastor Tony King seminars with me. And she mentioned to me not too long ago, earlier this year, back around, I think March sometime, can't remember exactly, her son was locked up on a gun charge. It happened last year, and she took power of attorney over him, and she told the judge she had power of attorney and she didn't accept the contract at the time. But what had happened was the court, they had already started administering her son's trust or estate, or straw man, and the judge told her, he said, ship failed. Ship failed. What is also ship? A vessel. So according to Title IX, so they speak in an entirely different language. This is why I want to say I'm not a legal expert. I'm just breaking this down for educational purposes to people. If I would have known a lot of this stuff years ago, I would have taken a legal class and became a lawyer, especially being an African-American man facing what I faced. I'm not trying to play the race card or nothing, but, you know, there's a lot of biases and things in this society. I recommend that everyone really look at the judicial system, get you a Black's Law Dictionary, study these terms. But if you have a child or a youngster coming up, I think it's really important for them so they won't get endangered and entrapped, and they will be more aware. I think it would be a better level playing field if people were on the same level and understood this information. But as you see, Rez, for example, in a suit involving a captured ship, the seized vessel, when he said ship failed, the judge couldn't say referring to your son, but he referred to a strong entity as the ship because they're speaking in a different language. So when he told her ship failed, this property, they had already taken control. And through the court system, they have something called the CRIS accounts. It stands for Court Registry Input System. I think it is connected to the Federal Reserve, just like the county has the CAFR fund. So, you know, so just so you all have a point of reference in understanding that information. And I'm going to go to, let me see, was that the last definition? So before I wrap things up, I went over capitis dementia minim. Okay, this is capitis dementia diminutio maxima, dealing with the all capital letters name. This is proof from what I mentioned earlier. They took Latin out the school system because they wanted to dumb everyone down. And then before I shut the video down, I wanted to show you guys how to go to, this is Mike O'Brien, his YouTube channel. Right here, if you scroll down, this is the call from last night called Break the Chains. I was on there last night. The special guest was Ginger. She did an excellent job answering a lot of questions for people as well. And he mentioned about spreading the word. So if you are involved and you want to learn more information about this, please subscribe to his YouTube channel. As you can see over in the left-hand corner, these are my subscriptions that I have different people I'm subscribed to. And also Gary Larbior, I guess I am subscribed to Gary already. He did a conference call with Ginger as well. Big shout out to him and the Real Truth Call. Levitate Entertainment says he's done a good job getting the basic information out to people as well. Eon puts out good information earlier when I was mentioning Jonah Bay, Yusufville. Also, Boris's crew with the Usufruct and Jim Hebus, they put out very excellent information. Big shout out to all the Patriot gurus out there that have put out information to help along in the movement. The information has progressed throughout the years. Rest in peace to Patrick Devine. I heard not too long ago we lost Patrick Devine to cancer. He put out a lot of good information about the 1099A process that Winston Shrout had put out some years ago, dealing with the 1099 OID. He put in a lot of work. So rest in peace to Patrick Devine once again. We lost a lot of people in the movement throughout the years. There's a newer generation of people that are coming up now. So big shout out to them. And big shout out to, what's his name, that was helping Mike moderate the call, Jermaine Walker, the Divine Hustler. I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel. He has done good work before he started helping Mike monitor the call, along with Heather Tucci, who's still locked up. I hope she gets justice soon. She's free. I plan on, in case if Mike sees this video, someone out there can let him know. I'm going to have sent some paperwork to him where he can pass it along to Heather's people. Is to help get people out of jail. I don't just give this to anyone, but I'm going to give it to specifically to Mike to pass it along to Heather. And there's some maybe some more education that needs to go along with that. But I have some documents that go over instructions dealing with that. Believe it or not, that ties in with this, but I'm only going to do that specifically because Heather played an important role with this information and getting the word out and what she did for us. So big shout out to her. Judy, the conference calls that she's been doing with Access Your Value. And all those out there who I may not have remembered that I forgot. Also extraordinary. And people that broke away. Also Harvey Dent, one of the people that caused a lot of the information more recently to go viral. Big shout out to Harvey and Dark Wall Street and all the people that broke away, started their own channels to try to spread the word for the movement, the intellectual freedom movement, and the movement regarding the TDA accounts and this information. So without further ado, You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource, and I'm on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. Don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell button. That's to receive latest updated videos or updates that I may put out in the near future. Thank you very much. Take care. Peace.